All right, here's the test correction for the quadratics test. Overall done pretty well. All right, so finding the vertex, a lot of you got that right. Finding the x-intercept, keystrokes for the most part weren't an issue. I'm happy with that. So there are the answers to that. Those two questions there, 1A and B. And for question 2, you had to use the quadratic formula. You could use a graphing method to verify, but essentially you got 1 mark for coming up with the correct A, B's, and C's. And you would get 1 mark for coming up with the correct x-intercept, the first x-intercept, and the correct second intercept. Okay. Some of you had issues with the signs, right? Or you made a mistake up front here. So if you did, I actually followed through your calculations, and you, as long as they were consistent right till the end, you would have lost 1 mark here, but then still received the marks towards the end. So some of you need to review quadratic formula, and some of you might even have to look at ensuring that your formula written down is correct, okay, the way that's supposed to be done, not go back to the lesson or go back to your notes and check that. Solve the following using a graphing method. So we plugged in left-hand side, right-hand side, found the intersects, and stated the x-intercepts like that without, some of you included the y value that you would have received or would have had here, so that you lost a full mark there because it's a concept error. Describe a situation of a quadratic function that would have no x-intercepts, refer to specific characteristics of the parabola. So you have to mention specific things like the vertex, the opening, right? Where is it? So I was, a lot of you weren't wrong necessarily, but you weren't specific enough, right? So one way of answering that, right, given the descriptive form, if A and K have the same sign, oops, that was off there, the same sign, there are no x-intercepts, right? If you did that, that would have been okay because you are specifically mentioning the equation and then talking about the elements of it, and that some of you actually went further, and this is just my key, keep in mind, right? And more specifically would be that it gives you the vertex, and if k is positive, the vertex would be above the x-axis, and a being positive would mean that it would point up, so it would never touch the x-axis. Or you could just mention if the vertex is above the x-axis and a is positive, which means it opens up, that would be one instance. And the same thing happens if it's below and a is negative, right? Because it would be pointing down, and it would never cross the x-axis. So out of 8 marks, that first page. Here was just a word problem. You just basically type that into your calculator and go ahead and see if you know what needs to be found based on the context. And if you just, so a lot of you included the keystrokes, the point, but really I'm referring to that 6.41, 61.48, sorry, as your maximum height, right? How long does it take until the plane lands on the ground? You're looking for the x-intercept. There it is, keystrokes included. How long does the plane stay at a height of 58, right, or above? And so there you get, right, you need to plug in and find the two x values, subtract them, and you get 1.69 seconds. And some of you got a rounding early. RE is rounding early. Some of you rounded to 2 already here, but you're supposed to use all or at least 4. D, what's the height above the ground? 4.3 seconds after being thrown. So there you just type in x is 4.3 and the y value is 23.9 feet. Okay. Graphing was done overall very well. Um, you had a consistent scale, you labeled and included units for your X and Y axis, and you included the um, equation. So well done there. Which of the following is not a quadratic? It would be this one, because you do not get an x squared or anything squared out of that period, right? 7, it was the winter jacket question. That was a revenue type scenario. And so you got 1 mark for filling this in. Some of you mix these up. You got 1, and it was supposed to be the equation of price and profit, right? Relating those two. So this goes into L1, this goes into L2. So this is the equation I was after. This is the one you would get if you put jackets into L1. Okay, so that one was wrong. You lost a mark there. And then you find that the jackets that were supposed to be sold at a price of $219.17, right? To get the maximum profit. How many jackets are you expected to sell? And so you divide these two to get you that. So approximately 131 rounded to nearest whole number. I accept 132 as well, as long as it was a whole number. You were fine. 8, that was a type 3 question, a story, right? And you were cricket, obviously it's implied you're starting on the ground, so jumping, and 25 seconds later, 25 centimeters away from where you started, that's where you land. So that's the point given there, the x-intercept. So to get the x value for the vertex, you just divide by 2, right? You set up your points, keystrokes. There's your equation, also done well for the most part. B, also done well. They're essentially giving you the x value. You're supposed to find the y value. Domain and range also done well. This one was, I must say, easier to do, but so expect it to still show up on other tests or ACs even, right? And so 9, write the descriptive form of the parabola with this vertex. So that had to be there, and it had to have 2 x-intercepts. So plug that in first. You change the sign of h, right? In there, and you have to have a square plus 6 because the k value doesn't change. And so because this is positive, you need to have the coefficient a negative. That's what I was looking for to get that right. That's the only way you're going to get 2 x-intercepts out of that. So here 10 is kind of testing your knowledge of the descriptive form. State the maximum height of a rocket without the use of a calculator. Explain how you know, right? And so this is just for me, but I was looking for something like the equation is written in descriptive form, which gives me the vertex, and it's the y value of the vertex that would, in this case, determine the maximum height, which is this. And there were no units, so if you just left it at the number or you added units, both were acceptable. How many x-intercepts would this have? And it would have 2 since a and k have opposite signs. You were asked to find the y-intercept algebraically. Some of you got to about here, but some of you forgot that when you square a negative number, you get a positive if it's in brackets, right? So you made a mistake there. What does the y-intercept represent in this particular? And it represents the initial height. If you just wrote down height, it is the initial. It has to be specific, right? So you lost partial marks there. So write an equation of a rocket with a lower maximum height. So this is the number I was looking for. Okay. Parabola passes through these 2 points. They have the same height and has a minimum of -16. So we know that the vertex has a y value of -16. Now it's all up to us to find the x value, which is really finding the axis of symmetry. So we go -3 plus 12 divided by 2, that gives us 9/2, that's 4.5, and we insert that. So you get the full 2 marks there if you state the vertex, okay? And then the bonus, some of you got close, right? But it has to have, you want an area of 80 square meters, right? That's what you want. So you could draw this out and make a chart and come up with the equation, but this equation isn't it yet. We want y, which represents the area, right? We want that to be 80, right? That's here. So you let that be 80 and then you rewrite the whole thing in standard form, okay? And so this is what you want after all. And the roots of this would actually give you the dimensions that would actually have, like, give you an area of 80 every time. Okay, so that's what I needed there to get the full 2 bonus marks. That is it for this video. Hope that helps. See you next time.